much for putting on this fabulous 80s themed mixer. What do you think? Nick Beard, Eric Booth, everybody that was involved, you did a fabulous job. I love it. And I just noticed the stuff up on the walls because it wasn't there when it was light out. So this is fantastic. But right now I want to bring up our speaker and who's going to walk us around this fabulous car and all the other historic cars that we're looking at right now. He is the design chief here at Mazda R&D. We're at his workplace today, and it's the fabulous Derek Jenkins.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you. All right. First of all, thank you everybody for coming. Welcome to the Mazda Design Center here in Irvine. Very excited to have you guys. We don't have this opportunity very often to bring people in like this, so I'm probably more excited than you guys are. I see a few of you were brave enough to bust out your 80s, and good on you. I chickened out. If you want to see what I'm wearing tomorrow to work, come by and I'll show you. It's definitely 80s. It doesn't disappoint, but I couldn't go through with putting it on tonight. I'm not going to take a whole lot of your time, but I do want to take a few minutes to run through the 2016 MX-5 Roadster and talk a little bit about the lineage that I have behind me. Starting, of course, with NA, the original car. This car, for me, is significant in a couple of ways. On a personal level, it's significant in that in 1989, I had just been accepted to Art Center College of Design. So I had already made the commitment that to at least try to become a car designer. Tried. And that this car had just come out. The articles in Motor Trend and Car and Driver were coming out, and I was reading these wonderful stories about Tom Matano and Bob Hall and Mazda and what was behind this car. It really had a story behind it, and that was so very inspiring and exciting. I can remember the first time I saw the car driving down the 405 for the first time, and it really connected with me and kind of sealed this notion that this is what I want to do. I really want to go after this. And it was symbolic of that spirit of really doing emotional design. And on that note, the second point for me with this car was that it set in motion a whole generation of more enthusiast-based vehicles. It gave license to the industry and was proof positive from a business standpoint that if you did enthusiastic, passionate vehicles, that people would buy them. Cars like the Viper and the TT and Z3, Z4, Boxster, you know, rebirth of the Mustang, all of that followed soon after MX-5. So this car, I think, really deserves a lot of credit for kind of tipping things in that direction. And subsequently, the 90s until now have been really fruitful for more enthusiast, more passion-based, not only designs, but cars that are really about driving. And that car, I think, really kicked it off. And then came along the second generation car, and you know, this is the second album. It's a tough act to follow, right? I mean, that's a lot of pressure. But I think this car did it in that it stayed true to the original formula. It was about the classic roadster, inspired by European roadsters, and it brought that through, lightweight, fun to drive. The car became a little bit more sleek and dynamic. It became a little bit fuller in its styling. The front end got a lot more integrated with integrated lamps. And this car, also what you see here is the Mazda Speed version of the car, which in itself is a very provocative discussion that I love to talk to people about, but not right now. And then you have NC, third generation vehicle. I know this car really well because when I started at Mazda, it was only a few years old, and we started playing around with it a lot, and that's the cars that you see against the wall in the background with the Spider and the Super 20. And it was about trying to get this race component into the car in more of a street feeling. And I think this car also was very successful in its own right. It kept the basic formula alive, but of course the car had gotten slightly larger, slightly heavier. It had gained the 2-liter motor, a few more creature comforts. So it was really evolving with the marketplace and was very, very successful as a result. So with that, as the opportunity came up to start to think about the next generation vehicle, and I'll just kind of cruise around here, obviously that's a huge task. You have this legacy of great products. You have a very passionate group of people and enthusiasts, racers, and just people that love driving and love simple sports cars. You have this legacy to live up to, but at the same time, being part of this global team, both here in the US and in Europe and in Japan, being part of this team, we knew that on one hand we had to be true to the lineage, we had to get the concept right and stay true to that, but we also had to do a completely contemporary car. We knew that we couldn't disappoint the traditional enthusiasts, but we also knew that we had to engage a future enthusiast and bring a new customer to this car. So as a result, the car had to have this classic component, but it had to have this very, very modern component. And that's like, okay, that's easy, a little modern, a little classic, but that's not that simple. It's actually quite difficult to do, in that if you change it too much and you do something very radical and the tradition of the car is lost, or the DNA of the car is lost, I think you've really failed at your mission. At the same time, you change it too little, or maybe do something retro, or that literally is something more old-fashioned, I think you're going to fail to fascinate that potential new customer and even threaten potentially the long-term existence of the car. So I like to think, and I hope that you guys agree, that we've found that balance with this car, with this fourth generation. A few of the things that I think are key to this car, first of all, the overall silhouette of the car is absolutely classic roadster. We've been able to pull the cabin farther back, sit the driver down a little bit more, and really keep that classic roadster silhouette. I think even improve upon that. And then if you come around the front of the car, this is where the real attitude adjustment, or bringing the car into a more contemporary sense, really comes across. It's a lot lower, it's a little bit more confident than the prior generation vehicles, but above all else, the car has a lot more road stance. It looks more planted on the road, where the prior generation cars were still in a kind of 60s style proportion, especially with the front of the car. The contemporary component here is where the car really feels planted. As you come down the side of the car, very simple body side. That's where we stay true to the formula, I think, of the original car. Very clean, not really any lines to the car, but if you've seen the car in sunlight like earlier tonight, or maybe on the road someday soon, you'll notice very subtle sculpting to the side of the car, all there to kind of enhance this dynamic proportion and really add a lot of strength and contour to the body. You come around the rear of the car, very pronounced rear fenders, especially highlighted over the rear wheel. It is rear wheel drive. And then of course, very tapered, unique rear end that I think is actually a departure from all the vehicles. Very standout, and hopefully a real standout on the road. And then lastly, the interior of the car. You know, throughout the process of working on this car, early on, we would go to a lot of enthusiast events, Cars and Coffee, and MX-5 club meets and stuff. And one of the things we'd consistently get from people is they wanted a more sophisticated interior. Not a complicated interior with a bunch of features, but just nicer materials and nicer trim, and something that just felt higher value. And that's a general trend, obviously, in our business anyways, but that was a big focus and a big push on this car. So, you know, please take a close look at that as well. Lastly, I just wanted to say, you know, it was a global effort. This is not by any means my design. It's a global team that works on it. But I think in that global effort is where the magic happens, bringing the best ideas together on this car. I think this car represents Mazda in the best possible way. You know, the company's core kind of sense is to build cars that are fun to drive, that really have that in their DNA. It's this joy of driving that we talk about a lot internally. And this car is the epitome of that. And I think that it's a car that I really believe this company is the only company that can really do it, you know. Maybe that's a little arrogant, but I truly believe that. It's in the spirit of the company, and everybody lives it to the fullest extent. So in that respect, it's been a true honor to work on and to be a part of. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight and celebrating that with us. And I'm around for any questions, or you want to see that Halloween costume, whatever you like. So please enjoy yourselves and have a nice evening.